One of the nicest things that the Vercel team did when they cooked Eve was they actually shipped the documentation with the install. What that means is that when Eve installs into your repository, if you were to look at the node modules and go to the docs section, you can actually see the exact documentation that you would read on eve.dev. What that means is that whatever coding agent you're using, whether it be Cursor or Codex or Claude Code or something else, that agent has access to all of the documentation locally. What this means is that you can build really complex Eve agents with your coding agent's help without ever having to fetch a URL. Now, with this in mind, it occurred to me that many people actually don't know how to spend their tokens as efficiently as possible in order to get the best use of their coding agents when they're trying to build AI agents or any kind of software. I see all kinds of posts on X, for example, where people have said, "Oh, I used Fable 5 Max for 3 hours and it cooked up a billion tokens and my bill was $2,000." And I always think, why? There's such a better way to use your money on tokens in order to accomplish building anything you want. Now, on this channel, we're going to talk about building Eve agents specifically, but I want to zoom out and help you think about how to actually pick a model so that no matter what you're building, you're getting the most efficient use out of every model and provider. And because I'm going to teach you that logic that I apply when choosing a model, even though 5 new models will appear on the market right after I publish this video is still going to be useful to you. As always, please like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content about building Eve agents. So let's take a look together at CursorBench. Now, CursorBench is a evaluation or benchmarking platform that is managed by Cursor AI in order to evaluate agents on ambiguous multi-file tasks, as it says right here on their website. They use real cursor sessions to evaluate these models. So I want to show you a little bit from this website how I think about ranking these models because there's so many of them. You need a good place to start. So the place that I'm going to start is with Composer 2.5, and I'm going to tell you why. With Composer 2.5, you find the absolute lowest price per task while still maintaining very strong performance. When I hover over the Composer 2.5 mark, you see both a horizontal and a vertical line. That vertical line shows you that pretty much every single thing that's been benchmarked on CursorBench is more expensive per task than Composer 2.5. And the horizontal line shows you everything that is more or less performant than Composer 2.5. This is a really good way to think about any new model that comes out. If it is more or less performant than the highest performing and lowest cost model, as I record this video today, that's Composer 2.5, then you know where to rank it. If it is more performant or lower cost or both, then it should fall into your consideration set. The consideration set is the different models that you will consider using for any given scenario. So, in this scenario, or really in any scenario, I can tell you right now that anything that falls inside, that is to the left and below these red dotted lines, are models that I have no interest in using. And it's pretty basic logic. I don't want to use a model in any scenario that is more expensive and less performant than Composer 2.5. So for that reason, that's my benchmark. Now, that leaves a handful of models that are more expensive, but also more performant than Composer 2.5, such as GPT 5.5 Extra High, Opus 4.8 Max, and then, of course, all 5 Fable models. So I'm going to show you how I think about using all of these models or any of these models together. As I record this video today, both Composer 2.5 and all 5, 6, 7 models that fall above Composer 2.5 are going to be in my consideration set, at least initially. Now I want to go and show you how I think about which ones I would be willing to pay for in order to get that extra performance. All right, so over in good old trusty Excel, I've pretty much copied the data from CursorBench, and I've also pasted an image of the chart we were just looking at so that we can just have it in our mind's eye as we look at some of these hard numbers. The first thing that I want to show you is that I've already highlighted everything that I would put in my consideration set. That is Composer 2.5, Opus 4.8 Max, Fable, all five, and GPT 5.5 extra high. So let's compare these models only. I'm going to take my image over to the right, and I'm going to select each one of these models and bring them over into a new table. I'll grab my headers, widen all of my columns, and just so that we can see a little bit better. Now, the main numbers that I care about are score and cost per task. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these two columns. And then I'm going to plot score just so that we can see what we're dealing with. And there you go. Right away, what you should notice is that there is a step change in performance from the Composer to GPT 5.5 Extra High group to the Fable group. When you get to GPT 5.5 Extra High, the CursorBench performance ranking is putting that model at 64.3%. But when you go to Fable 5 Medium, you actually get a 69.8% performance rank, and then it only goes up from there. So you can very easily separate these into two different buckets of very strong performing and then extremely strong performing models. What's interesting is that Fable 5 Low actually sits in this first group. So what I'm going to do is actually take all of these Fable 5s that are in this second group of performant models, and I'm going to bring them down below because I'm going to evaluate them separately. These are my workhorses, so we will look at those a little bit differently. Now, in this first group, these would be what I would call maybe my everyday models because it's a very tight group performance-wise, but they vary a lot on cost. So now, how do I actually think about which one of these I would want to use on a daily basis? Now, again, I'm going to use Composer 2.5 as my benchmark because it is the highest performing, lowest cost model. If I'm going to use that as my benchmark, I'm going to do just a little bit of math, and you can see now where the story starts to take shape is really around the cost. It's not the performance in this group. If I compare Opus 4.8 Max to Composer 2.5, I just cannot conceive of why I would spend 1,280% more of my dollars to get a 60 basis point increase in performance from just 63.2% to 63.8%. The same kind of holds true for the Fable 5 Low. Why would I spend almost 1,000% more money in order to get a 1 percentage point increase in performance? And of course, the same continues to hold true for GPT 5.5, though it's not as egregious, it's still a very large increase. 700% increase in cost for a 1.1 percentage point increase in performance. That, to me, is not ever going to be worth it. So when it comes to what models to use, none of these are really going to be worth the extra spend for the extra performance that I'm getting. So Composer 2.5 is going to be my daily workhorse. Now, I believe I read somewhere that Composer 2.5 Fast actually costs 6 times more than the ordinary 2.5 version. If that is true, then there is really no reason to ever use 2.5 Fast. I only use Composer 2.5 because it uses so few tokens per task and so few steps per task. Even if you're not in fast mode, it is still a very fast model. So I would almost never recommend using Composer 2.5 Fast. Just stick with the regular speed. It's still going to be faster than most other models, and it's still going to be cheaper and very, very performant. Now let's evaluate our second group of models, the very, very strong models that are much better a total step change in performance from that first group where we just eliminated a few competitors and stuck with Composer 2.5. Let's do the same analysis and use Fable 5 Medium as our benchmark. Now, if we run the same numbers, a similar story starts to take shape. The spread is a little bit bigger. So for each additional model, you get a little bit more performance. So it's only about 80 basis points from medium to high, yet it's a 31% increase in cost. I don't know why I would spend 31% more to go from 69.8 to 70.6. That's just not really worth it to me. Now, if we go up to Fable 5 Extra High, we're talking about a 2.2 percentage point increase, going from 69.8% performance to 72% performance on the CursorBench score. Now, that's a pretty good increase in performance, but if you look at the cost, it's 66% more. So it's really not a very efficient use of your dollars for that 2.2 percentage points. And the same story really holds up for Fable 5 Max. If I want to go from 69.8% with Fable 5 Medium to 72.9% performance score with Fable 5 Max, that's a 3.1 percentage point increase. That might be meaningful in some scenarios, but I would argue that your prompting and the cleanliness of your code base and whether you have docs in your node modules, like with Eve, there's a number of reasons why you could probably get that kind of performance just on a lower model as long as you've got actual clean code and good prompts. I still don't think it's worth a 118% price increase just to get 3.1 percentage points more performance out of a model. So, all that being said, I would eliminate all three of these models. They're really not worth it to me. Now, what that leaves me with is really just two models, Fable 5 Medium and Composer 2.5. Now, if we run this same analysis here, you see a 6.6 percentage point increase from 63.2% to 69.8% for a 1,400% increase in spend. That is a significant cost increase, but it also comes with, I would argue, a significant increase in performance. When you compare the Fable 5 mediums to the Fable 5 high, extra high, and so on, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze there. But if I'm comparing the Fable 5 medium performance to Composer 2.5, which is the most cost efficient, highest performing model from the first group that we analyzed, I think it's absolutely worth it. However, I don't think it's worth it for everyday tasks. For everyday tasks, I would use Composer 2.5. Now, if I'm doing a major migration, or say I took over another code base and I want to completely redo the tech stack to be more modern and performant, that's going to be a Fable 5 medium task for me. It makes a lot more sense to spend the extra money to do it right the first time with a very, very performant model in Fable 5 medium instead of going with Composer 2.5. So back in CursorBench, the models that I use on a day-to-day basis and the models that give you plenty of versatility, cost efficiency, and performance to accomplish really anything that you want to do are Composer 2.5 and Fable 5 Medium. There's a lot of people online that are trying to show you how many tokens and how much money that they spent on Fable 5 Max. I would tell you it is almost never going to be worth it. If you disagree or there's a use case that I haven't thought of, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Now that we know what models we're going to be using and specifically how to think about new models as they come out and where they fit in our arsenal, we're going to get back to building Eve agents very soon, and we're going to build more and more complex agents with the help of our coding agents.